Wait, are you going?
You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tata. The Africa we want. Unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherlands calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa.
After centuries of misguidance caused by slavery, colonization, lack of awareness of our history, and institutional disinformation, a new Africa is on the move, determined and getting organized. Afrika tuko pamoja. Welcome to the United Kingdoms of Great Africa. The United Kingdoms of Great Africa is the credo of the alliance movement of all African intelligences around a common ideal, the unity and development of a strong, conquering and completely dedogmatized Africa through the channel of a strong organization called the Africa We Want Global. You are an African, Afro-descendant, researcher, historian, scientist, or simply an NGO. You want to be part of this great historical march towards the total freedom of an uninhibited Africa? Visit our website www.africawewantglobal.org. Register and discover the range of our platforms for change. AfricaWeWantGlobal.org. Join the kingdom, be part of it. An initiative of Dr. Susan Tata.
Hi. Hello. Welcome. I know a lot of people are looking at me and like, what's going on, Dr. Tata? Where's our big African giant? Yes, okay. Prof asked me to just come on live, entertain, and know about you while he joins us in a short while, okay? Yes, and it's also because it's been a while that we haven't actually paid attention to the family that is supporting and watching with us here all the time. So, I mean, he's late because he's from his therapy, knee therapist. He's on the way home. And I thought, why not? This is a Friday evening. It will be better for me to also find out and hear from you how you're doing while we wait on the professor to be here tonight. We are going to be talking about a lot of current issues going on. As you know, the trip to Egypt was canceled suddenly, and Prof advises that he's coming live tonight to share some very important information with us. He's not really going to dig into detail. As you know, we are not in our own compound. We're still in our neighbor's compound, so we have to watch out what we say. When we get into our own compound, then we'll start talking. Okay. So, but he would just give us a little bit of information on what has been happening. And I'm so very happy. He gave a lecture at the Cairo University, Egypt, 2 days ago. It was powerful. It was a hot one. And he's also going to be telling us about that. But apart from us just actually talking about current issues happening on the continent and in the diaspora, there are some also internal challenges that we're going through that we would also be paying attention to, advising ourselves what is the way forward, what is it that what should we be paying attention to. Actually, I'm talking about most of the time we keep pointing fingers at, like, it's because the colonialists did this and this to us, but most of the time we do also forget that they passed through us to get us, isn't it? So those internal challenges, particularly in this 21st century, what is it that we should be paying more attention to? I really would be specific because I saw a lot of comments, or a lot of times Africans on the platforms of, change makers. We're talking about voices like, even Professor PLO Lumumba. We're also talking about Dr. King Maponga. Yes, platform which actually I manage most of these platforms. I mean, like I'm a member on it. And when I see some of the comments that our fellow comrades, right, Africans, when they are giving lectures for free, lectures that are there to empower and to educate us and actually to put us on the rail, for us to learn from one another. Not is it's not even as if someone is teaching someone, but you see the resistance from inside is really hard. Some people we sometimes we ignore and like, okay, all of us we're still learning. A lot of people are waking up, but sometimes I ask myself, what about me? If we keep talking about the trauma of the past and take it as an excuse that we should hurt one another, we shouldn't listen, we shouldn't be paying attention. We see Christians that have been Christians or Muslims or what, come, just like want to crush those that are coming with the new form of spirituality from the indigenous, perspective or point of view to say, this is who we are. So these are also internal challenges we'll be dealing with. Like, how do we do with those that were already Christians, most of us, before we even got to the awakening? Some people are really enjoying the conversations and they want to change. Like, we want to recruit, Pan-Africanists, indigenous Pan-Africans by knowing our history. We also know that half of the continent are Christians that were Christianized by the Western religion. We just like the Muslims as well. So these are all internal issues that we will have to deal with them. Are we just going to say now, okay, you don't belong to the Africa that we want to build? Are we going to say no? You're everyone to just automatically become now someone else? I think it's a process. Another third point that I think Prof would also address, I'm very happy he's here now, as you also can see, is the colorism among us. We do know that we're mixed, we're diverse. Most of us, even during the slavery, we're raped. I think it's not something that we're hurting about it. And so we find this mix among us. And most of the time, like, we ought to have had a guest here on the show. And it happened. There was a white South African. Uh, from the narratives and everything, staunch Pan-Africans and Pan-Africanists and stuff. So how do we deal with this diversity, religion, culture, colorism, people that are still, waking up? And these are the ones that are causing these internal challenges that we're having here, like fight back. They want to fight back. They want to defend the position on what they know. So while we are educating ourselves and we are waking up, we should also understand that those that are not woken up or that are resistant to change, that have been part of the system, probably for one reason or the other, the benefit, they would defend the current systems that we actually are trying to contribute to make sure that we find a balance or a way forward for us. So we will have to be making some very crazy, terrible choices. On the Pan-African Daily, we already said it's from us to us. And when I say from us to us, we look at the first people that are the target. And we do know they're the Black Africans. Let's not mix stuff, right? It doesn't matter how white Pan-African you are. We just say, yes, thank you. And it's a good thing to be. It's all humanity, as a matter of fact. But there are some that are more than some, that enjoy some privileges because, you wouldn't be in the setup like me. So there are things that we really would have to, separate from that, or we'll have to think about it. I'm very happy that Professor is right here, and he is going to be addressing some of these issues that are talking about global current issues, but also internal issues from us for us. We do know that the Sankaras, the Patrice Lumumba, they also had their way through one of me and you. So when we face this resistance from within, how do we take it? How do we approach it? So welcome, Prof. I'm very happy that you're here. And how are you doing, first of all? How is the knee going on? You were just coming up from your therapy. How is it going on these days with you?
Mm-hmm. It's going well. Like you said, I was just in therapy. So now I have to come and deal with this therapy.
Yes.
And I'm going to get right on it because I don't have time to sugarcoat or kiss poison. Okay. let's be clear. No one would dare go to the Jewish community and say, you cannot talk about your Holocaust. No one. No one would dare go to the Jewish community and said, you cannot talk about your Passover, which happened 3,000 years ago. No one in the world would dare do that. No one in the world will dare raise the Nazi flag over a Jewish community. No one in the world. No one in the world will dare to say that the Jewish Holocaust did not happen. We just saw Whoopi Goldberg made a kind statement, but the reference wasn't wrong. She said that the Holocaust was not about a race. It was about the crime against humanity. And the Jews said, no, it was about me. It was about race. And Whoopi Goldberg got suspended, as powerful as she is, from her job and ostracized in every newspaper in America. But when Africans have to apologize, we lost 1,000 times more people in our Holocaust than the Jews did. And we've got to apologize for talking about it. Somebody is out of their mind, and it's not me. And we need to be clear that ones that are damaged, that's why we're here. I got children. I've got grandchildren. They need me. I've taken their time, their food money, their love time, and give it to the broken ones for nothing, for decades. And I'm not alone. You see the picture of the man behind me? That's Malcolm X. He took 19 bullets for those who criticized Mapungo. He took 19 bullets for those who are broken and fractured, but don't want to know they're broken and fractured because the brokenness and the fracturedness don't allow them to understand how to know they're broken and fractured. But I'm not going to pretend that I don't have a sick person standing in front of me when I do. I'm not going to let the sick lead Africa anymore if I can help it. We live in the poverty we live in because of the sick, the ignorant, the misguided, and the collaborators who operate from envy, jealousy, arrogance, egoism, and will even sit by and allow death to come to our people so they can get a handful of silver and buy a Mercedes and own a home in America and one in Africa. No way. You are a collaborator, whether you meant to be or not. So we have to study how to start this process. Don't play with me. I'm an African man. I'm an African husband. I'm an African son. I'm an African father. I study my history because I need to know the truth. Every religion you are living in, pretending, most of you, because if you were living in it, there'd be no crime in our community because those are your children committing the crime. The Muslim children, the Christian children. You see very few traditionalists committing that kind of crime because their view of humanity and relationship to humanity is different. So you're going to take responsibility for the situation in the Congo? Are you going to take responsibility for the hundreds of thousands that die there every year? Are you going to take responsibility for all of the wealth that the American, British, Canadian, and French corporations is trucking to the port on their beautiful freeways with all of the raw materials of Congo dumped on ships, sailed for the West, while we're sitting in the bush trying to figure out how we're going to eat and killing one another in frustration and ignorance? You're going to take responsibility for that? Are you going to take responsibility for people every time we make a progressive move, they come up with an Ebola case on us? And when they want the Ebola to end, it ends like this. And they come and nurse us every day, but they don't die from Ebola. And you still caught up in the hoop-de-doo of European robbery, murder, rape, and pillage and plunder of Africa, which goes on right now. That an African man in Africa, an African woman in Africa can't say I want to be African without being ostracized, criticized, and belittled. That is total and complete insanity. Total and complete insanity. We have Chinese people all over Africa now coming, marrying our women, having babies, getting free land, opening business. You go to China right now. There's stores they don't want blacks in. There are restaurants you can't go in. And they'll tell you right up front. They don't hide it. There are nightclubs you can't go in. There are parts of towns you can't rent or buy anything in. But they come into Africa and we say, "Oh, Massa, welcome home. We are human. We welcome you. Oh, we got nothing against you." And you rob me and smile all the way to the bank. And when people talk about how foolish we are, we think, "Oh, we're not foolish. We're just humanity." If you misuse your humanity, that's foolishness.
Yes.
That's absolute foolishness. Like I heard Sister Susan said, no, we don't all get it right all the time. But our intent is to get it right all the time. We're sacrificing our life, our time, and our space. We take the death threats from people just for being on the show. This young lady have to suffer from people abusing her, trying to bring you free information so you can get yourself together, so you can be able to feed, clothe, and house your children and your grandchildren without begging or having to rob your brothers and sisters as some shyster politician in order for you to have something, but for them to now be under your feet. We don't have to have that world. And yes, that's a big part of the world. We don't live in Africa. We live in Africa that way. We live in America that way. We live in the Caribbean that way. We live in Central South America, Latin America, wherever the African is. We have bought into whiteness, and their religion is a big part of their whiteness. Don't tell me about a God that endorsed slavery. You're out of your mind. Keep that God, whatever you call it. And you just look around and say, what religion were we carrying during the time of slavery? Stop lying to yourself. Tell yourself the truth. Who was engaged in slavery? The Catholic Church endorsed slavery and told Spain and Portugal, I'm dividing the world in half, and that you take one half and you take the other half, and you conquer them for Christianity. And then the priest in America, De los Casas was his name, said the native people are dying. They're dying from the disease. They're dying from the rape. They're dying from the murder. They're dying from the beating. So let's go to Africa and let's enslave the African who have no soul to save. That's the Catholic Church. Your Christian church made that statement. And then they moved forward. Murder more than 300 million of us. So you don't come to me unless you're going to tell the Jewish community, and they wouldn't let you have 1 second of telling them you can't tell them to put their history up, condemn their enemy, and say never again. Never, ever again. We haven't said never again yet, because it happens over and over and over and over today. How dare the French government tell our nations in Africa, you've got to deposit your money in my bank. And if somebody comes to buy something from you, they've got to deposit it in the French bank. And if you want to get any of your money back, you must take it out as a loan. And the French will put the interest on that loan, on your money that you want to use. Or you can keep 20% of it in your country, as long as you don't use it for the wrong thing. We will tell you what to use it for. We will tell you whether you can build a bridge or a hospital or a road or a school. That's called slavery, people. It's not even colonialism. It's called slavery. And so we need to wake up to reality. Because I will not get soft to Susan. I will get harder. And you, my dear, beautiful sister, with this wonderful platform, need to be very clear to the people that you come to bring truth, not lies. You don't come to deceive anyone, because you don't deceive. You've opened this platform to people from all over the world, and you didn't discriminate. Who comes? But we have a right to tell the white community to take responsibility for hundreds and hundreds of years of genocide. Yes, because, oh, I wasn't here, I didn't do it. Then give me all the opportunity and the wealth that you got from your ancestors having done it. Then we can sit down and discuss what your relationship should be. We don't have to apologize to anybody unless we don't know the history. Slavery wasn't the nice work party. It was genocide, crimes against humanity. Even in the Durban Accords back in 2002, the United Nations declared slavery a crime against humanity even today.
Yes.
You know, so let's be real.
Mm.
People ought to be happy that we are smiling. They have to be happy that we're not poisoning the water and poisoning the food chain and cutting people's throats. We would be justified in the eyes of nature to do that. But the Africans is above the animal level. So we've created a logic to say we can find another way. But don't tell me not to look for another way. Don't tell me to stay and enjoy my oppression. Don't tell me to stay and enjoy my suffering. And when I say something, you want to blame it on me. Pull your corporations out of Africa. Go home. We don't need you. If we're going to live in this kind of poverty with all the corporations here, go to hell home. We can live in poverty without you stealing everything we've got. Let's just take what is left in the ground and we deal with that for ourselves. Let's stop playing with people. I'm not apologizing to nobody. And for those in our community, the collaborators, the conscious collaborators, and the unconscious collaborators, you need to study history to see the harm you're causing. There was a time when there was no borders in Africa. This all happened after the Berlin Conference. So someone living in South Africa, another African is going to tell him, I don't like what you're saying, so I'm going to tell you, throw you out. You go back to the Zimbabwe. The border was created by the enemy. When our family and our fathers had no such border, we lived where we wanted to live on this continent. And now we're acting just like those who've committed genocide and the crimes against humanity and pretending we have democratic nation states and we can't even provide food, clothing, shelter, and jobs for our people. And the way you manage poverty, you throw them in prison and make them even greater criminals against the society. You practice a worse humanity against them than the colonialists did. And you tell me you're a free government, democratic government? Where did you see that cartoon? Now, I don't care who gets angry with me. I'll come anywhere I want on the planet Earth. You could put me in a jail if you want to. That doesn't take away my freedom because I'm above your tyranny. Even those at the working class level, we terrorize one another because we fail to study history and see how we got in this condition we're in. So we can come up with solutions to get out of the conditions we're in. The big reason I come on this show is to loan my little bit of knowledge to Ms. Dr. Tata's platform with the hope that some solutions would come for those who listen. Because this is not about me. I'm an old man. I'll be dead in a few years. Susan is a young lady, probably about 30. So she's got time. But let me be clear to you. Africa don't owe anybody in the world an apology. The North people, the Eastern people, the Asian people, the Western people, they've all spent their entire relationship with us, exploiting us, lying to us, stealing from us, raping us, murdering us, and cutting us off from the memory of our own ancestors and our own history. So we don't owe anybody an apology. We owe our own ancestors an apology. We owe the divine that created this universe an apology because we have not been strong enough to turn the tide. You know, tyranny will stop when the African becomes an African again. That will happen when you learn your history. You can worship all the gods you want. We worship all those gods during slavery, and not a shackle fell off of our hands until we pick up arms to break those shackles for ourselves. So don't tell me who my enemy is. I've lived in his house for 300 years. I've lived in his house for 300 years. I know him better than you will ever dream of knowing. And he has no intention of dealing with us with an open hand. Even today, with all the smiles and all of the "I will make you a loan that you have to pay back for the rest of your generation," they have no intention of ever allowing the African to be free. So we can't wait for someone to allow us to be free. We have got to demand of ourselves our freedom and then bring that into being. And you can't bring it into being if you don't know who you are and who you were, and you don't know who your grandmother was, and you don't know who your great parents was, and you don't know who your great founding ancestors was. How can you ever be free? Anyone that tells me that's got any ideology, any philosophy, any religion that say you worship your murderers, you worship your thieves, you worship your kidnappers, you worship your rapists, and tell me how that is a path to freedom. Now, this may not sound soft. People want to say, "Oh, don't speak so harshly, Professor Small. Don't be so angry." I'm not angry. I'm just as happy as I can be because I'm a free African. I'm a free African. And I don't look to anybody but my ancestors and the divine. And I've told people on this show before, I don't care what religion you have, everybody in your holy book is dead. So they call ancestors. So let me see if you can get that right now. Everyone in the Quran is dead. Everyone in the Bible is dead. Everyone in the Torah is dead. Everyone in the Rig Veda of the Buddhist is dead, the Hindu is dead. Everyone in the Upanishad of the Buddhists is dead. Those are ancestors they're revering, but their ancestors were killing us. So if we're going to revere their ancestors, then we have to accept the killing of us by ourselves. I hope you're less simple enough. You know, my mother is worthy of my love before anybody else. My father is worthy of my love before anybody else. My eldest auntie is worthy of my love before anybody else. The ancestors that brought them to me is worthy of my love before anybody else. The divine understanding they had of the Creator is worthy of my acceptance and understanding before anyone else's design is worthy of my acceptance and understanding. That shouldn't be difficult to understand. I may
Correct.
speak with a different accent, but there's only one truth. Truth is the truth. And we are in trouble. And our young people are suffering. Our elder people are suffering. We don't have proper hospitals. We don't have proper roads. We don't have proper clinics. We don't have proper pharmaceuticals. Yet billions upon billions upon billions upon billions is taken out of the grounds of Africa every day. How can that be? Where is the billions going? Why do we have to wait for Pfizer or Johnson to make a medicine for us? We have more money than America in our ground. We have more money than Britain and America put together in our ground. We have more money than Britain, America, France, and Germany and Italy put together, combined. The wealth of those places combined doesn't equal the wealth of Congo. So why are we walking around with open sewage, making our people sick? Why is our little children side the road selling Chinese plastic knockoff garbage? So let me be sweet and calm. Susan, look at me and smile. You see my sister smile. Listen, we have things we have to work out, like Susan's saying. Those things are going to take time because the enemy has given us his religion, his philosophy, his history. And yes, to cleanse our minds of those things are going to take time. But you must agree to start the process. You can't say, I'm not going to become a part of the freedom movement. Then guess what? You're in the way of the freedom movement. Then what is the freedom fighter supposed to do with you? Ask those who fought with Frelimo in Mozambique. Ask those who fought with Swapo in Namibia. Ask those who fought in Angola. Ask those who fought Congo, Lumumba in the Congo, what choices they had to make. If you want to be free, you have to have the heart to learn your history. The young people in Mali may be wearing military uniform, but I've been trying to read and hear what they're saying. And the one thing they're saying is they do not want to have the French and others robbing them of their raw materials. Those things should be used to build schools, hospitals, highways, and supermarkets, and other things, universities and medical schools for the children of Mali, not the children of Paris or Lyon, or Bordeaux, you know? And the same, I'm trying to study Burkina Faso, and I hope that they're saying the same thing. You see, because
And that's
Africa.
the issue.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, and that's the issue, Prof. What is wrong in demanding? What is wrong?
That's what I've been saying. What is wrong? You can't have the mind of your enemy and defeat your enemy, because you become the enemy's frontline best fighter against yourself. You become the enemy's frontline best fighter against yourself and your own liberation when you have the mind, the belief, the value system, the philosophy, and the religion of your enemy. Then you are your enemy. And we say, well,
Absolutely.
there's so many people of that. We have been on this earth for millions of years. We've only been involved in Islam and slavery and Christianity and Judaism and Buddhism about 3,000 years. And for most of us, less than 500 years. You know? So you mean 500 years of a shackle on your hand is greater than 5 million years of being free to love nature and be one with nature, to love God, and be one with God, to love the cosmos, you know, to live in harmony in your village or your city or your temples. And so we now say, okay, yes, they did wrong, they enslaved us, but that's the past. Okay, they did wrong, they took our minds and our language away. Oh, but that's the past. Okay, they did wrong, they killed our shrines and they killed our priests, they burned down our sacred groves, they murdered our chiefs and our leaders, and they give us their religion, but okay, that's in the past. All right. So how do we get back all of the things they took away? So I will no longer be in the past. I'll be in the now.
It doesn't even make sense, because it's not even something in the past. It's something that is currently still going on every day, and even more.
And so, like you said earlier, people are profiting. People are getting little bits of success and money and degrees from helping to keep the majority of their people in genocide.
Yes.
And then blame the people for their own genocide. And then use the judgment of the enemy's standard to determine the ethical, moral level of the behavior of their own people. So you got a knife on my throat. But if I took it away and took your head off with it, I'm the criminal. You want to have a gun to shoot me. But if I turn that gun around and you pull the trigger and kill yourself, I'm the criminal. You know, and then you tell me, oh, I'm about the truth. I'm about the light. Know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Study history, and then tell me what truth you're going to be discussing tomorrow. Because history will take away the oppressor's mystery, even if the oppressor has a brown or black face like we do. So study history. Learn your story. Stop lying to yourselves and your children. Stop pretending we don't exist, except when someone else create us in their image. We have an image before we meet anybody. And that image comes from our ancestors and God itself. To deny the African ancestors is to deny God wherever you are in the world.
Ashe.
To deny African history is to deny God anywhere you are in the world. Deny our understanding of God. You tell me this man's understanding is better than mine, but his understanding let him get on a ship, cross an ocean, murder me, steal my land, rape my children, burn my villages, and you tell me that that God that he has had more omnipotent, omnipresent, omnipotent, and love and justice and righteousness than the God that we have that didn't do any of those things to him? Then I need to know, how do you spell logic? BACKWARDS, backwards. But I just came on, I was just thinking, I was just picking up on your spirit. So I helped you through the minefield. Now let's talk about something else.
Anyway, you already addressed what I was saying, that the internal conflicts between us is what we need to brush out. Because yesterday we had Mkulu Zingaza, and he was talking about that actually, like, you know, the question is, what were our ancestors doing before the colonialists came? So if we understand a pre-colonial history, so we wouldn't even be talking about anything that. So we started even just by the calendar, the African calendar. Are we supposed to worship, you know, these public holidays like Christmas and stuff like that? And he actually educated us and explained the reason even why not. You can compare winter and summer and you say these are two different, these are the same things. So we came out and he educated us about the fact that, I mean, our Christmas or our, sorry, New Year is on September 23rd, which is exactly what Ethiopia celebrate. 7 years even calendar. So all of us are 7 years younger. Can you imagine? Can you just imagine? And so, and the question was, Prof, how come that Ethiopia celebrates that? Is Ethiopia in America? It's on the continent. How on earth is one country doing, let's just say in this case, the right thing? And the others, every other person is doing something else.
Some of the people are doing the right thing. There are many in that country who's fighting against them celebrating Ataka. I think it's called Ataka, the holiday, the 11th of September. But there are those in the countries who are Christian and Muslims who have fought against this. And if you know the history of Ethiopia, there were times when in the early days, the Muslims invaded that country, but thank God they were able to limit that. And when Christianity came to Ethiopia, the queen mothers got together and told the kings, this is not of our ancestors, and it is not ours. But that's why Lalibela, we can talk about how great Lalibela is with the building the churches down in the ground, but he went in the mountains and to build those churches in secrecy, because that was not an African culture. But we've turned it into one. We were able to mold the Ethiopian Christianity, but thank God the Ethiopian indigenous calendar and indigenous tradition have always outweighed the Christian and the Islamic tradition, which is also there. And so we have to study history to understand, where was these other things born? Yes, for the people in the desert who had been oppressed and beat down by the Romans and the Greeks, who God came and brought a way which they call Islam, for them that is good. But I was not beat down by the Greeks in Nigeria. I'd never seen a Greek in ancient Nigeria. I'd never seen a Roman. So why you come to me? To change my way? For your way? Because you want to rob me. People didn't come to our countries. If you go back to the early Romans came to Africa to get teak wood, to get olives, to get rice, to get cotton and to get gold.
And spices.
They weren't
And
exploring, they were
spices.
robbers. And the ones who come today in their 747 and their 707 and the different airlines, they're robbers. They're coming because we have something they want. And they don't have the integrity to negotiate a fair, humane deal. So they murder off the people who want to give a fair deal, find the corrupt collaborators and give them money, and then rob the people of the livelihood that don't allow them to build their universities and their hospitals and their roads and their clinics and their businesses for themselves, because your wealth have been sold away by your brother who have collaborated with the enemy. And then the enemy gives them a lot of tinsels and make him look like glitter. So you think, oh, that's what I should be. Look how beautiful it is. Look how shiny it is. Oh, what a wonderful car. Oh, he has a nice gated community home. Yes, because he stole your money to get it. So the truth is the light. Know the truth, and the truth still sets you free. Truth alone will set you free. And if you're not willing to know the truth, then you're a collaborator. You're an enemy of the state of Africa. You're an enemy of the race of Africa if you're not willing. I can understand not knowing, because the enemy have been very good at messing up our minds. But you're not even willing to go back home. You're not even
Absolutely.
willing to learn about your ancestors. You're not even willing to tell your mommy and daddy, I am so sorry. Oh, my great people, I am so sorry. I didn't listen. I didn't hear you scream. I couldn't remember you crying. I couldn't remember the sword went into your belly. I couldn't remember the bullet going into your back. I'm so sorry. But I want to know your story, because I want to rebuild your kingdom that you had before we met these people. You know, they've gotten so ugly that their women is used for the standard of beauty against our women, which meaning our women ain't beautiful. Now you know they lost their mind. You know what I'm saying? When you say the African woman got an equal in beauty, you done lost your mind completely.
That is the last stage.
Yeah. So you done lost me completely then. So no. It's going to be a hard road. And most people are not like that. Let me tell those who are still hurting and broken and scared to change. Hundreds of millions and hundreds of millions of the young people in Africa, and even the older ones, is trying to find a way to build an Africa that they want to see. They're trying
Absolutely.
to find a way to throw off the yoke of the Berlin Conference. They're trying to find a way to throw off the yoke of colonialism. They want to be able to hear the discussion between Abdullah and between Muhammad Ahmed in the Sudan in 50 something, where they're saying, we've heard that these people are coming. They are going to come down the Nile, and they want to get to the island of Fashada. Because if you can control the Fashada just below Khartoum, you can control all the trade coming into the Africa on the Nile. So we know they're coming. So let's build our army. So Muhammad Ahmed fighting in the east and the north, and Abdullah fighting in the west, took on the arms of the British and the French and defeated them. The British know the history of Gordon. They know Muhammad Ahmed cut his head off and sent it back to Cairo. They know they sent 23,000 men and only took 3,000 back to Cairo. And the Turks and the Arabs fought on the side of the British to destroy the African people of the Sudan. They had to then send to China and bring General Kitchener. He was supposed to be the great British hero, but he could not defeat the people of Sudan. They had to get a collaborator to put poison in the food of Muhammad Ahmed and take his life. They were not able to defeat the United Sudanese people. But if you don't know your history, you don't know that story. So you don't get the inspiration that I get from it. And when Abdullah came, we could have defeated them even again. But by now, the French is bringing African soldiers fighting with them from the West to fight their own brothers in Sudan. By now, Ethiopia is in a crisis, having won the battle against the Italians and working out their arrangement. They couldn't fortify us from the east. And so we lost Abdullah. And they cut his head. And they put the picture on a postcard and mailed it back to their families in Europe. Know your history. It will set you free. Because you'll understand the truth. And even for the Black Americans who like to say, oh, you Africans sold me into slavery. Know the story of the thousands of Africans who picked up their spears and their sword and fought the British and fought the Portuguese and fought the French and fought the Germans so that slavery would not be a success. If you think it's bad, but the amount of us that brought here, had it not been for our brothers and sisters in Africa, they would have brought 10,000 more of us, 10 times more of us into slavery. We made it non-profitable, and they had to stop it. Britain didn't stop slavery because they loved emancipation. The African made it unprofitable because we fought. And if you want to know how deep we fight, go to the Zulu Wars. Study the Zulu Wars. Look at Bambata. There was this one occasion when, what's his name was, Robespierre was the head of the British government, right? Mm. And he's, in history, they glorify him as the business modeled man. But when the British Empire took on the Zulu nation and the Ndebele people in South Africa, and the Zulu, which is the largest nation in what they call the Zulu War at the time, had a leader named Bambata. And so there was an occasion where one of his minor kings, minor chief, wives ran to the British camp and says, oh, our husband is mistreating us. So he goes to the Brits and says, please, give me my wives. This is not your business. The British refuse. So he kills them. He killed the whole army they had there. So the British bring in a bigger army, send their general to Bambata, says, we want your minor chief. Send him to us to be punished. And he says, I cannot do this. That's our business. They should have given him his wives back. This is our land. These are our rules. Then the British attacked them at a place called Islamabad in South Africa. And Bambata laid 2,000 plus dead on the battlefield. The Brits, when they hear about this, they were so angry, they brought down the government of Robespierre in the House of Parliament in London. Do you know that history? Do you know who you are and what you had to go up against? Yes, they defeated us because they had gun technology. They came back to South Africa with the machine gun, the Gatling gun, and we didn't have nothing like that. They could kill 1,000 people in a minute. We had never heard of anything like that. But we didn't stop fighting till this day. You go to Zimbabwe and you hear the story of the guerrilla warriors in the bush against Ian Smith and his apartheid regime, and the amount of years Black men, African men who had doctorate degree, medical doctors, school teachers, pick up the gun and went in the bush and fought for decades until they freed Zimbabwe. But they didn't slaughter the enemy. They said, you can live as a free Zimbabwean, but you will not in your minority state rule over me, the Zimbabwe people, who is the majority of this land. Mm-hmm. Our problem is we don't know who we are. We don't know our history. We don't know the battles we fought to preserve Africa. Mm-hmm. Yes, we lost many of those wars. We won many of those battles. And we are still battling, but now we're battling for our mind. Bob Marley said, none but you can save your own mind. That's what a war is now. It's a psychological war. It's a cultural war. It's a spiritual war. But it all needs the information called history to make the appropriate decisions on how we go forward. So I don't want you to be unhappy, Miss Susan, because
no. I'm not. I'm happy because I myself, I really was boiling when I spoke with Maponga. It was very devastating to see the kind of comments when he comes live. Exactly, just like you here, giving knowledge for free, knowledge
Listen,
that we
you
would pay,
if
sell
they
land.
really have a problem, the ones that have the bad quake, give them my telephone number. Tell them to call me and
No,
let
of
me
course
know
we.
about them.
Yes, no. I took it up from a King Maponga, and I say, you know what? We are not going to raise this kind of children anymore. I mean,
Mhm,
I just don't know any other option like the one I saw my mother's did, an African mother. We don't tolerate all this kind of indiscipline. It doesn't work. We've been taught in the system and raised in the system where we think we're equals. We're
mhm,
parents and children, and we just talk and laugh, and they will tell you, oh no, it's not right to do this. Dare that. Just dare that for 1 second.
mhm,
And so it doesn't matter. The queens were the queens, they set the rules. And I told them, and King Maponga had to write a statement. I say, social media, it's a social space for anybody. You're not entitled to be here. Someone is there educating you for free. Like you said, leave his wife and children, daughter, and everywhere, trying to give you knowledge, just give you for no amount. But you know how much money we take scholarships to learn, to be programmed to serve, how much
mhm,
we work and pay these bills that we,
mhm,
in the name of investing, even on the continent, on an education that you have to work, and in the end of the day, you have nothing. And we
mhm.
believe it. And now people sit here like you, Prof, and they giving knowledge. And he sat there for 2 hours talking about it. And you saw this really, I don't want to, I don't, that's why I said sometimes, even when we take the excuse and like, oh no, we are growing. No, no, no. How did I grow? Was I not part of this traumatic system? We
The
just
reason
don't
I've
want,
got
we
mhm,
don't just want it. We're so disrespectful that when people come, elders, we don't even know the relationship between us and our elders anymore. We don't even have ethics again. We just lost
mhm,
completely. And so anybody can throw a statement here. Where would you start in a village in Africa to answer back to your elder? How on earth would it even start? For
mhm.
me to look at my mother and he told me, and she would tell me, don't do this, and I would even have the guts to answer? How did we start? Right. So these are some of the things that you were addressing. You came in when I was talking about that because we're already boiling on this. And I told my Panga, no, you know what? We'll have to deal with this. We will have to
Mhm.
deal with this really on a different level. When we want to be Africans, let's be Africans. And
Yes.
let's really do what we were taught and we were brought on this space to do. And not just to compromise. I look at
No.
my children every day in the house saying, can you look at me and tell me something that I don't want to hear? Because you say you're born and raised here. Who? Who gave you that? Right. I mean, sometimes we talk and we politicize and we sweeten and we do things and we're like, oh, yes, we paid, we raise you up with discipline, with love. And that's why we don't have anything to negotiate with you. If I raise you, I give you the love, I give you everything that I have. That's the fact. And if you don't act right, then you know what will come. So there's no negotiation on these things, Prof. I truly understand you. Another thing that we talked about yesterday that I would like you to address, I mean, you will talk about what happened with the conference in a little bit, or just give us, I saw you also gave some powerful lectures out there. We really want to know what those lectures were all about. But one thing that we thought and we identified was the issue of money. A couple of times, Prof, you've been here.
Mhm,
And I don't remember for 1 second that for any reason that I call you or we said, okay, or you yourself come to say, when are we going on these lectures? What are we talking about today? I know a lot of times you have, like Naisha, Susan, what are you doing? You're not working, you know, and that is how I was raised. And that's how I know love, right? But then this attitude of money, now we get people that come to us. Oh no, you're doing a good job. We want to sponsor your TV. Well, no, we have projects that are being sponsored by what nations and what global war, and we think we can put you on this and this for doing that. I said, what? Put who on what? So the question of money. and comfortability, Prof.
Mm.
How how do we deal with this? And I said, we could raise our own. We have it. We give it to them anyway. Why can't we
Yes.
invest our own thing?
Well, any of us is no stronger than the weakest of us. Any of us who think we got money and power and our people are still impoverished, we're just foolish beings
Yes.
who have no
Agree.
understanding of reality. And some of us, we go home from here. I won't even go to Africa. I grew up in the South, in South Carolina, in the midst of the worst racism and terrorism any person can grow in, where people, even before I was out of high school, had tried to take my life just for being Black. And I survived. And so many of us who left there and come to New York, but we don't want to take responsibility to change the environment our people are in. Not myself. I've always fought for freedom. That's the only thing I know. That's all I want to know. But so many would come back on Christmas and they would rent a nice car, Mercedes Benz, a Cadillac, and they would buy a lot of gifts, the last penny they've saved. And they come home in their nice suit and their shining shoes, and they make everybody think, oh, look at me. Everything is fine. I have abundance, when they have nothing. They put on a big show for the occasion and they have nothing. When they go back to New York, they got to work extra to pay the bill on the car, work extra to pay the bill on the gifts they bought, work extra. They can barely meet the rent on the apartment they're in because they fail to face the truth of their situation, face reality for what it is. Food, clothing, shelter, and safety is the desire of all people. And if you're not dedicated to doing what will allow any people to be able to provide at minimal adequate food, clothing, shelter, safety, security, and medical needs, then you failed as a person. If you're not fighting for that, then you're an enemy of your family. Just coming with the glitters of the enemy to showcase on a holiday, then get on your plane and go back and leave me in poverty. What are you saying? We need to realize that an apple tree is an apple tree. An orange tree is an orange tree. The universe that we call God made it so. We are Africans. Stop trying to be something else. Be what the universe made you to be, and everything will be fine. Because when you make that decision to be what the universe, what God designed you to be, then the understanding and the knowledge and the weapons of whatever is necessary to bring that about will be right at your fingertips. But if you still want to pretend that you are something you can never be, I don't care how you bleach your skin, straighten your hair, change your clothing, change your language so you can speak their language better than them, they will still whisper in the dark about the nigger in the living room when they're in the kitchen, and how much you sound like them, but could never be them. But you're only there because there's something of you they want or need. And they laugh at you in your foolish way. Who wouldn't laugh at one who has urinated on their mother and their father's face for the sake of being embraced by their mothers and fathers' murderers? That's what we're talking about. That doesn't sound pretty and political. Oh, my ideology is socialism. My ideology, I believe in parliamentarian government. My ideology, I believe in democracy. Africans invented democracy. And
You're
certainly,
breaking.
you know,
Okay.
oh, okay.
Efficient.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I'm looking. Okay, but
Yes. So
maybe
wins.
hmm, maybe someone don't want to hear what we have to say. So I have a very good connection. There's nothing wrong with my connections. But at the bottom line, we build through education. And the foundation of our education is our history. So did you hear that? That we build through education. And the foundation of our education is our history. So people are working overtime. How amazing it is to go to school in Cameroon and never learn the history of the Cameroonian.
Can you imagine? Sometimes I ask myself what really went wrong. And even till today, not in the past. I
Mhm.
learned European history. I mean, I was one of the best in European history. But if you ask me about my own, which is what I'm struggling to catch up, and all of us the
Mhm.
same.
And then they tell us, oh, the reason your history was not on the curricula because you don't have one. And then you have to look around and go like, oh, that means I don't have a mother and father. I was made in a laboratory or something. I don't have a grandmother and a grandfather. I don't have a village that I come from, an ethnic group that I'm a part of. And they didn't have an experience in the world that they call history. For all the hundreds of thousands of years that they existed. So we know what the story is. I don't blame my brothers and sisters who are blind. It is our job to fix them, to get them a cane or a CNI dog or some glasses or surgery to fix their eyes. But if they refuse all of those things, then our options are limited what we have to do with them if they stand in the way of our victory. That's not complicated to understand.
Mhm.
It's scary if you still got a little bit too much of the other people, Christian or Muslim or something in your heart. But you ever seen a honeybee or bumblebee, or they just do what they came to do? They do what God created them to do. We're not doing what God created us to do. God created us to bring
Absolutely.
justice to the world. God created us to bring harmony to the world. God created us to bring balance and reciprocity to the world. And we're busy allying with those who cause imbalance, disharmony, non-peace, chaos. And then when we find ourselves all broken and laying side the road, we ask, what happened? You went against what God brought you to do. And you said, but I don't know what that is. No, because you don't know the history of your ancestors who was given the instructions in the first place on
That's
how
true.
to teach you to do this thing.
Mm.
This is not a complicated thing. We have to make choices. We make choices every day. Do I make a choice to be with the enemy of my people as a collaborator because I get some wealth from it? Or do I make a choice to be with my people so we can create a world where all of us have wealth to provide us with all of the essentials and even more that our lives require?
Mm.
So that's the job we're faced with.
What happened? What were you talking? What were you lecturing about? It's very interesting. What was the topic?
When?
You lectured at the university in Egypt.
Oh, oh yes, yesterday. That was a very beautiful session. I was the American University in Cairo. Some very beautiful people, and the lecture was about the learning of Malcolm X. And we were talking about Malcolm X, at least my part of it was to talk about Malcolm X as a teacher and a student of knowledge. And I was looking at how knowledge transformed him. You know, that those who say, oh, the religion that he took. No, it wasn't the religion that transformed him. It was knowledge that transformed him. And that process of his transformation had been going on since he was a child. I talked about the fact that Malcolm X lost his father. His father was murdered by the white, they call it the White Citizens Council. We call them the Ku Klux Klan in America. They murdered the father when Malcolm was 6 years old. And because the father was a member of the UNIA, the organization of Marcus Garvey. And so the whites killed him. And so his mom was left to raise all these children by herself, I think 7 children. And she did not want to work within the system. She did not want to be on the welfare. She planted her garden and raised her chickens, and her other things, she wanted to raise her children for herself. And the state wouldn't allow it. So they put her in a mental hospital. See, in America, when they can't get you for a crime, especially back in those days, they could declare you insane and they put you in a mental hospital and nobody could get you out because it was on the word of one white person. And they did that to us by the hundreds of thousands. And they did that to Malcolm X's mother. So here he is, preteen. He doesn't have a mother. He doesn't have a father, but he does have family. You know, his aunties, his uncle. He had older sisters, and he had aunts and uncles and cousins. But the government split them up and sent them to different homes. But Malcolm X was lucky. His sister Ella, who lived in Boston, came and got him from Michigan and took him to Boston. She was a very relatively wealthy woman. Malcolm X did not live in poverty after that moment. He went back into the impoverished community because that's what he was accustomed to. And he got arrested as a teenager for stealing a watch. He went to the pawn shop. People say he's such a big criminal, he sold dope. Read the story and you'll see that the years they're saying he's this big time criminal, he's 17 and 18 years old, 19 years old. When he's 20 years old, 2 white women who was his girlfriends, they would set up the homes of their neighbors, and Malcolm and his friend, they would burglarize. They only did 2. But he liked this one watch. So when he goes to the pawn shop to buy the watch back, the police is called. And so he gets arrested for this watch. Not for being Al Capone or La Cosa Nostra, the mafia, but they sentenced him to prison for 7 years. Normally, someone charged with that, they give you probation, you go home. But they didn't like him because they considered him to be arrogant, an arrogant black. So they wanted to put him away. So they asked the 2 white women, his girlfriends, to declare that he had raped them. And the women said, no, we won't do that. He never raped us. We were in a voluntary relationship. The white men got angry and they sentenced the boy, who had just turned 21, to 7 years in prison. See? And while he's in prison, his sister fights to get him moved from the big man prisons to the prison where the young people are placed that had a library so he could study. Because he was a very good student when he did go to school. And then he met a man who told him about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam. And then he found that his brothers and sisters was a part of this organization. And they helped him to join in his latter part in prison. And when he came out for 11 years, he was their primary teacher. Not from what they taught him, but what he had taught himself before he even met them. You know, he was an extraordinary educator. And hundreds of the people that he took out of prison and got off the drugs became doctors, became lawyers, became teachers, became businessmen and women. Nobody talks about that.
Mm.
You see? And so when he is pushed out of the Nation of Islam, he didn't quit and walk away. Jealousy, envy, okay? Jealousy and envy of others who wanted to be where he was, but didn't want to study and learn what you need to know and practice to be where he was. They pushed him out of the Nation of Islam. When he came to the nation, they had maybe a couple of thousand people, if that much. They had 4 mosques. When he left, they had nearly 70 mosques and hundreds of thousands of followers. And after he left, nothing grew again because he was a learned man. He had used knowledge to help transform people from the worst condition to the best condition in society. But all they want to hear him say, oh, he said the white man was the devil. So maybe they are. I judge everybody by the deeds. What do the deeds say they are? Forget about what Malcolm had to say. But nobody says, oh, he took tens of thousands of black men out of prison and taught them to go back to schools and taught them how to be carpenters and plumbers and businessmen and taught them how to go to college and become doctors and lawyers. Nobody talks about that. So that's what I talked about. Let me talk about my Malcolm. That he was raised by an auntie. After his mother died, his auntie had she was a graduate of Spelman College. Her name is Sarah Little. And she lived in the house with Ella, Malcolm's big sister in Boston. She was a school teacher in the public school system. And he had an auntie named Gracie, who was about as African focused and African centered as any woman you'd meet in or off of the continent. And then he had Ella, who was a businesswoman and a politician, tougher than anybody you've ever seen. And her husband, Kenneth, who knew the streets and the rules of Boston. And that's what Malcolm X comes out of. Not out of drugs. He got into New York for a few months and got in trouble and left and never went back because he was scared. He was not no big time gangster, okay? So I talked about this educator who, when he went to Africa, how his eyes was open in ways you couldn't imagine. And when he went before the AU, they didn't let him into the meeting at that time, but they took his speech and circulated it. A beautiful speech on colonialism and slavery against Africans on and off the continent. He called the speech Dollarism. And the African nations embraced him. The president of Nigeria, the president of Tanzania, the president of Kenya, the president of Ghana, they embraced him as their brother.
Mm-hmm.
And so he changed his name again. After being Hajj Malik al-Subaz, he decided he was Omowale. That's the name he was given in Nigeria.
Omowale.
Omowale, the child who has returned home.
Mm-hmm.
He was killed a few months later. But the beautiful thing about him is to watch how education transformed him and how he used that education to transform others. You know? And so the European news media would like to just put him in the arena of being a critique of the American government. Yes, he was that because our government deserved criticism. A critique of the general white community. Yes, it was that because the general white community supported the tyranny and the colonialism and the enslavement that the government and the corporate and business structure carried out. But what he did most of is teach other people about the world, about Africa, about their identity. He taught others how to change themselves using religion, Islam at the time, ethically and morally so they can be a better human being and raise families and take care of them. He taught many to go back to college and get a college education, people who had never finished high school, and come back and serve their community. So when you talk about that, Malcolm X is not the one that most people like to hear about, just the firebrand. He did that too, but that was the least of who he was. He had a beautiful wife, Dr. Betty Shabazz, and he had beautiful children, 4 beautiful children, and 2 on the way when he died. And he was a very family man, loved to be at home, loved to play with his children. But he sacrificed all of that, just as Mapungo and others are doing now, to teach the people the truth. And when you teach the people the truth, you begin to throw into imbalance the corporate institutions of exploitation, and people get angry. And sometimes you see the people sending messages on here. It isn't always one of us that's doing it. And sometimes when it's one of us, they're taking their instructions from their bosses or their handlers. Because I can't imagine anybody that don't want to be free. I can't imagine any African that don't want to be an African. That's just unimaginable to me. And if I find an African that don't want to be an African, then I know they're damaged, they're injured, and they can't help themselves. And so we must try the best we can to help them to learn to love themselves, see themselves, know themselves, touch themselves, feel themselves, learn about their ancestors, learn about history, and then face the truth of it. Get rid of the fears. Because none of us will be in these bodies eternally. These bodies wear out in 60, 70 years, and the spark of life in us find another body or baby to come and be a spark in. But we don't want to go there. People don't want to really hear African religion. They like the myth of dead people coming back to life to save you, or mystery gods that's going to punish you and send you to hell if you don't submit to the slavery of those who are supposed to be the clergy. So the truth is, Africa did not have clergy in the way we have clergy in the West. Priests and priestesses didn't live off of the people, they lived for the people, and the people took care of them within reason. You didn't have no wealthy priests and priestesses in Africa. That's not how the system works. We give them service because they give service.
We are having his a transition day, February 21st, and that is going to be a Monday. And for Tuesday, Baba Jume Faye helped us or gave us a speaker who also is coming from this OAAU, the Organization of African American Unity, Brother Alfonso Peter. And so he's also going to be sharing, that day, 22nd, Tuesday, about his legacy and how he grew up to know him and how they knew him exactly like an educator as well. So did the university look at this period when he transited? A lot of people are saying it's Black history or something like that. And that was why the lectures were really essential in this period, or what? Or was just general?
There was two other people on with me. A brother named Ahmed Asman, who was a very good friend of Malcolm. He knew Malcolm when he was a young student from Sudanese student at Dartmouth University. So him and Malcolm became friends until Malcolm died. When I became an imam, he sat on the board that voted me into the mosque as an imam. He lives in Sudan today. So he was talking about his helping Malcolm to transition into getting a deeper understanding of the Sunni Islamic tradition And then there was a sister, Aisha, who worked, she's a librarian, and she works at she used to work at the Schomburg collection, and she handled the Malcolm X collection that was there. And so they were talking about those related things. There was a few questions. I think too much emphasis is put on this thing of transition. There was a transformation. That transformation happened throughout his life. When he went to Mecca for the first time, and he was saying he met these white people and realized there were some white Muslims who treated him very kind. That didn't mean, there's no way you can live in the world of New York and not know there's white Muslims, right? So that's such a stupid thing for people to even presume rather than assume. He lived in Boston that has a large Muslim community before he becomes a member of the Nation of Islam. He traveled to Saudi Arabia, to Egypt, and to North Africa in 1956 and 7. You mean he didn't see any Arabs in the Arab world? So people don't know history. And so if you tell me how he pulled that magical one off, how many people know that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who headed the Nation of Islam, made the Hajj to Mecca? And that's why Malcolm was there in 56 to open the way for him. But Malcolm didn't go to Hajj. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad made the Hajj. Malcolm would make the Hajj in 1965, almost 10 years later. But he had already been in the Middle East. You tell me all the Arabs left town while Malcolm was in Egypt, while he was in Tunisia, while he was in Morocco. All the Arabs left town. All the white people left, went to Europe, and he didn't see one. So we have to think of the foolishness of what the white media tried to say. Hey, baby, come say hello to Miss Tata. This is my little grandson. He's coming home, Miss Tata, and to the brothers and sisters.
Hi. Hello. She's so cute. Beautiful. Like grandma.
You had a good day?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, he's just coming from school. So, yeah, I would be. What day is the young man going to be on? I'd be interested to be.
On Tuesday.
Tuesday. Okay. What am I doing?
Alfonso Peter. I was just going through the message that Brother Faye sent, and it's confirmed.
Is he from UK?
Oh,
or Canada?
I don't know. No, but he's from the Organization of African American Unity. Mm-hmm. So I would get the bio tomorrow and actually the press release because we're starting with that one, and we wanted to do that topic the week. I mean, like you already has started it. Mm-hmm. Just knowing who he was, his life, and the purpose, and the things that he actually transformed that no other community would say about it. It's our duty to empower ourselves from that example. I mean, but the most important thing is this unity.
Yeah, so I would like to do a show on Malcolm with you next week.
Okay.
And the reason is most of the people who do the shows, they don't know him. You might want to even ask Osman to come on from Sudan. I don't know whether he wants to.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to say, because we were just working only Baba Faye and myself, and we got Alfonso. We also got Baba Molifi, but he's coming the next week on the African unity. So if you can get the brother from Sudan, and then that will make a lot of sense.
Okay.
So what about the other daughters? I know he's still the other one passed on, but
oh no, he's got 5 daughters still left. You got Malak, you got Gamala, Kabila, Ilyasa, and Attila, 5, but they don't usually do shows. The only one that might would be Ilyasa. I can give her a call tonight, but they're very skittish when it comes to doing any kind of
Mm-hmm.
occasionally Malak, she works at the UN, will, or Ilyasa, she's an author that has put out a number of books on the family. But she doesn't live far from me. I'll call her tonight and see if maybe she wants to do something. I know I will be with her on Monday because we will be at the Audubon Ballroom where he was assassinated. That's now called the Malcolm X Shabazz Educational Center. So we'll be doing a program there on Monday, and so I'll be with her on Monday.
That's also interesting because I tried to send an email to that center, but it wasn't successful. Probably if we could also get maybe someone that is leading this center, what programs they really do there. That's a legacy and it's a monument as well.
Yeah, I'll send you the number of the young lady. Her name is Nija. She's one parent is from Liberia, the other parent is from here. She's about 25. Okay. She's now the new director there. So I'll send that to you. Yeah. I'm interested in seeing my brother and find out where he's from because I'll explain that to you later. But I will want to go on Tuesday.
I will. So, but is Thursday good for you? Because I'm just already putting on, if he's coming on Tuesday, Wednesday, leave it open for the guy or for the brother in Sudan, and Thursday, or let's just do it after the show. Anyway, we'll put out that program. Prof, what happened with the trip to Israel or to Egypt?
No, I can't speak on it now. Other than that, what occurred was some group calling themselves the Afrocentric Debunkers. They're on Twitter, they're on Facebook and other social medias. They went on an attack on our group and said that we were coming to Egypt to cause trouble between the Nubians and the Arabs and to cause the country to divide into two in a civil war. And that's why we were doing the conference in Aswan, which is in the Nubian area, and that we were linked with the groups in the Sudan who's fighting over this very issue. Of course, they also said a lot of other ugly things. They threatened people's lives. Some of the other scholars got threats on their Facebook page and other pages. They said we were niggers, African Americans, slaves without a culture, and we were coming there to steal their culture and their history. And this got to be so widespread in social media that Al Jazeera got involved in it and some other right-wing newspapers from there. So I don't want to say much about it because I don't want to hurt the efforts that there was an effort to push an African American who's engaged in a dig out of having any license or security to dig there if we'd come and do the conference. So we had to cancel to save that. There's a lot more I'll be able to say later, but not now.
Okay.
But our relationship.
Is there any future plans, or everything is just going to stay like that?
No, that's being worked on right now. There will be another trip. The conference will go on, but in another place. And we had a meeting with all of the people last night who were going, over 100 people. There's supposed to be close to 200 people going. So, to have to stop at the last minute, the day before you have to travel and say, we're not traveling. It's been very difficult. Now the big process is how do we get the people to return our money? We had already paid all the money to the hotels and to the airlines and everything. Some will cooperate and give the money back, but most won't. We know how it is. There'll be more later, I can tell, but basically it was about racism, anti-Africanism, anti-Black on the part of whomever. We don't know who those people are, but they created such a frenzy on social media. The government got involved. And, the best decision to make was the one we made so that we didn't endanger our people's lives.
Absolute. Yes. Of
Yeah.
course. Sure. Yes.
So, but,
So hi,
the thing,
Sister Felicia doing. I mean, Felicia. I think because she really I couldn't reach to her. She just said she needs some time to work this out, but she's
yeah,
doing fine. All
she's
right.
doing
Good.
okay. She's doing all right, having to deal with it again. Like we're talking about, you got hundreds of people who had paid money to go on a tour. That's not going
Mm-hmm.
to happen. So we had to explain to them why we made the decision.
Mm.
Um, and since I'm one of the ones who made the decision, even though I wasn't doing the tour, the leadership came to us as elders, and we looked at all the information we had, and there was too many variables that we couldn't account for. We couldn't say we can guarantee your safety to those people.
Fact.
On any tours, you can't guarantee safety, but you can guarantee safety within some framework. But when you got a wild card out there threatening people's lives in a
That's
foreign,
already a sign. Yes. Hmm.
you can't guarantee anything, you know. And
But
so,
I'm sorry to ask this, but were you also on the trip? I mean, because of the knee and that, were you also
yeah,
among?
I was going to come in for the conference in Aswan.
Okay.
I was coming in when they finished the land trip. I was going to meet them on the 24th in Aswan, and the conference was the 25th, 26th, and then I was going to return home on the 27th. So
Okay.
Dr. Jeffries was going to be there, Dr. Nobles, Theophila Banga, and a number of others.
Mm-hmm.
But no,
Mm-hmm.
somebody sabotaged us and created a situation that we couldn't be sure whether it would be safe for people to do it. And
I
so,
mean, I like the question of somebody who is just Obiahim is saying, no, Obiahman is saying, why are they so afraid of Africa? I mean, it's everywhere. Like we also talked about that yesterday. We watched even
yeah,
or talked
yeah,
about the conversation.
because the people who are afraid of us are people who have done us wrong. All that history and artifacts, those are our ancestors. We're not trying to take it back. We're just coming to visit them and talk about them.
Mhm.
But there are people in the world who have made their whole identity off of stealing Africa's identity. They've got thousands and thousands of books they've written. That's a lie. You know. So
We're so thankful. We're really grateful that we're having at least these elders. You are teachers or professors that is really still. I mean, what do you see as a future after? Because that's what we're doing now. If we don't do this rite
I
of
think
passage,
next time we have to just do more due diligence, work closer with the government coming in, so
yes,
that people can't get on the internet and disturb the population without the government being able to come back and counter them. You see, and so these things are not true. If it comes from the level of government saying these things are not true, it would be more effective. And so that's a
yes,
part of what we have to do. The world is what it is. We're going to win. We have to. That's why we've got to learn African history. That's why we have to stay in Africa. So many of our young are leaving, and you understand they want to make a living. They want to take care of their families, but we've got to put a greater investment and try to bring our skills there in Africa. We
sure.
have the young people have to run for government. The people in most of our governments right now are old people, almost from two generations. They shouldn't be in government. I hate to say that,
Oh,
it
yeah.
don't sound respectful, but there's a point where elders step aside and let the young people go to the lead. And that don't happen in African governments,
Yes,
you know? And so the young people have to make some decisions that we need to vote. The young people are the majority in Africa. The majority of the people in Africa is under 25 years old. The overwhelming majority. So the young people have to say, why should I have to go to New York or Philadelphia or London or Paris to find a job? Why can't I create a nation where I
Mm,
can practice my profession and make a good
absolutely.
living in it and have a
Mm,
home and have a family? But that has to be a declaration, not by one person, but the young people have to organize and say, we're not going to leave home. And you are going to make sure either you run the government so that we can profit, or you get out of the government. We're going to elect people to this government who's going to understand how to build a society for African people. Yes, we're part of the world. That's the reality. But it can't be that we're the wealthiest piece of real estate in the world and we're the poorest nations in the world. That can't work. We can't continue that fantasy. That's the European fantasy that we keep in force for him. You know Cameroon is not poor, don't you?
it's
You know
Africa in
Cameroon is
miniature.
not poor.
It is
Now I'm
small.
just going
It
to
is
take
small
just gonna
Africa.
I'm going to take just your one little country of your ancestors. They're not poor. They got oil. But because of the confusion in the relationship between a president that doesn't even stay in the country, he's overseas someplace most of the time, and the French and their English and their control, and the Americans, all three of them are there, that they're going to even tell you how to spend the oil money that you get. That's an insult. That's an insult. You can't decide whether I build a hospital or a school or a freeway. Somebody in France, Germany, London, or America got to make that decision. I do study the current politics. And it isn't just Cameroon that this kind of thing going on. So what are young people to do? Keep having to leave home, leaving their family behind? When we have some of the best universities in the world in Africa, people don't even know Yamoussoukro, University of Legon, the universities in Nigeria and Tanzania and South Africa. We have some of the world's finest universities, training some of the finest minds. But then they got to leave home. And we need to turn that around. But
If we
and
focus
the young people are
on
organizing. They are organizing
young,
everywhere. Hmm?
they wanted to
So
back for this.
I give me a hard time today. Like, so are you back? It seems like every time we talk about the subtlety of right now, something happens.
I can.
Hmm.
It's
So, well, I guess they said we have probably said enough today, Miss Susan.
right. We're here.
Okay.
Connection, particular.
Hmm.
Yes, yes. Population. Now we have 9 minutes.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Oh, I hear you, Prof.
Okay. Okay.
I think we
So,
should be rounding up. As a matter of fact, nothing to panic. It's the internet connection. I mean, like I said, the winds were down here, and it's
yeah.
most around the southern areas they don't even have that. And then particularly we are in a village, and the internet, is not really that
Mm.
good. I do agree. Yes.
Well, it sounds good now, but I know our time is almost up. But the big thing is for our
Yes.
brothers and sisters, respect your elder. Even if you disagree with them, respect them. And if you have questions, you write it into Miss Susan to share with that elder who can choose to communicate with you. But we're not playing a game of children on the internet. We're talking about over 2.5 billion people, with the majority of them under duress and stress. I'm talking about African peoples in Brazil, in Jamaica, in Canada, in the United
Mm,
States, in Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and Honduras, and Belize, and Colombia. Colombia have the second largest African population in the Western Hemisphere. You don't even
mhm.
know about them. They live in their palenques and their African villages far in the woods, just like they did when they came over here. But you don't know about them. Even there at home, if you live in Lagos or you live in Accra, you forgotten about the village, you know? In the Asin area in Ghana, where I'm riding on this road, and there's village after village after village growing cocoa, growing rice, growing maize. You don't even see that anymore.
Yes.
And they need help. They need better hospitals. They need cleaner water. They need better sewage system in the little towns that borders the highways we travel through every day. So let's stop thinking like white children, looking up to our exploitive fathers and mothers. And let's start thinking like the African owners of the land in Africa. Let's be their children. And let's tell our mothers and fathers and our ancestors what we are prepared to do to make things better for you. And then turn and look at ourselves and our children and our grandchildren and tell ourselves what are we prepared to do to make things better for our children, our grandchildren, and our great children.
Ashe.
And study your history. It'll get rid of the mystery.
Thank you so much, Prof.
Thank you, Miss Dr. Susan Tata. And I want to see you smile before I leave.
I am. I do. I cannot even be without smiling. There's nothing that can take this away. We have work to do, and our work is coming up so fruitful.
Mhm.
And I'm thankful we are growing. The young people are following. They're paying attention. Apart from these ones that we really still need to take care of them. But
I told you,
you
tell them if
know,
they have any real problem, give them my phone number. Tell them to call me. If they're honest, if they're honest and sincere, you make that decision. If they're just trying to be lost, egotistical children, tell them, let me see them do their work so we can read their book and see who they are. And if they have something to give us worth learning, we will learn it. Otherwise,
that's right.
all right,
I
my
think
dear.
because the summer is coming up, and we should be opening up to also, do a conference for the young people. They kind of like, it's all about us now. And last year we did one. This year we should be able to do a week conference for young people to come up and express and bring on the table something that they have to build their nation and their people. So thank you so much, Prof. Greetings
Okay,
back
my
there.
dear.
We wish you a quick recovery, and then we talk about the Malcolm weeks coming up next week then.
Okay, my dear. Peace and
Thank you
blessings.
so much. Good night.
Good
Blessings.
night. Bye-bye now.
Bye. 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 Good. Thank you so very much also for taking time out of your office here. It's a really enough respect that all of us gather in our numbers each time our elders are here to really listen, to pay attention. And the one thing that we are not doing, and what we have to also educate each other is the fact that that's why we really did not appreciate what was happening on King Maponga's page, and it shouldn't happen anywhere anymore. And we do know that it's not a debate. We are not here to debate. We're not here organizing seminars and conferences where people are panelists that come and say what they think. We're not about that talking one. We're not about that panelists. We're not about just interviewing people. We have work to do. We have a nation to build. We have ourselves to heal. And so we're learning what we're doing here, like most of you say, is the Kemetic University that we're doing pre-colonial African history. That's what we are working on. And if you agree, if you learn anything, we said it from the beginning. We set our own platform and we defined those rules. And I'm very thankful, so thankful that we are keeping it. There's never been any language on this platform that is profane or anybody trying to disagree. Yes, we do disagree in our chats and stuff like that, which is also relevant. Imagine we were just that kind of dormant people that would just come here and people will not be able to express themselves. No, but we do it in a collective. We do it, in a progressive and a positive way. And all of you that are watching, I'm not even talking only about our family here across the continent, and you do know it because I addressed that situation out there. It is not about time that we want to argue who is wrong, who is right. It is about time that we research. So if we listen to our professors, these are learned scholars that have given up their life and education and time and family, do a lot of research, studied, led, and movements. It's a track record. It is not just something that somebody stands on the altar and tell you. It's enough that we should be grateful for this opportunity that we have them. They're still ready even to take bullets for us. They're still ready to say, we will walk with our words like our parents in the village. They moved to mountains and swim the rivers to say, this is what we're going to fight for. Ask the people of Southern Cameroons hiding in the bush in countries crossing over deadly rivers every day. These are not just young people. These are elders. So we mean business. If we're serious, we're talking about content here and asking people to support or to donate and to do this. No, please. I just want to beg us. We have to educate one another. If we find any young person or any person that disagree, we only begging you please to come on board. We have a contact information yesterday. Topic actually and he is a client, but he's a theologian and a scholar, and actually focus history. And his topic is going to be the pre-colonial spirituality that we have versus the modern religion. He's a brother from Ghana and middle age, studied and is a scholar in the United States. Caught attention of the topic that we had yesterday, and he was so interested. What I've been talking about all the time. I've been on my seminars and trainings and conferences, and I've been saying the same thing about the African calendar, and nobody would attention. And so he was so happy to say, please, I would like. And I said, yes, come on board. We want to share that conversation. We want to see, we want to, just from every perspective. That's the reason we are the voices of Africans worldwide. Pan-African Daily TV is our voices. Prof is talking about something this evening. People in Colombia, please give us contacts. We had Alexander Keto from Brazil. He's working on putting up a list, of activists, voices, scholars also, who are going. I mean, we're not going to just come here to sit and. We have a lot of lectures that we'll have to listen about these communities. What they think, their living conditions out there, how they want to connect back to the continent. So if you have a contact in Colombia, any out all these islands out there where our people are residing. Even we also know that we're finding out we have a Black community in Turkey, in India. If you reach out to any of those that have been working and writing books, or you are really a researcher, make sure you connect us to them. We are one. We were lost, but now we are found, and we're connecting ourselves again. Tomorrow, let's meet here at the same time. And like we were saying, next week is going to be the Malcolm X week. We want to get a lot of topics and information surrounding this incredible one-time leader. As we know, we want to learn from the steps and also the mistakes that these liberation fighters did. It's not just that they did everything perfect. Definitely, they also did some things that if we know better, we could have done better. So we want to learn and see what was the mistakes that they did. Of course, we do know that their era was another era. Remember, we are also now in the communication space where a lot of things are working in our favor. It is the biggest opportunity for us. Look at the media connecting us. Look at our voices worldwide, right? So if we have an opportunity like this, it is a time to work on ourselves, to digest it, to take a lot more, to drain a lot of that information for ourselves so that we can put it like an information bank now for our children, for our young people. They can go and shop this information anytime they want. Okay. So I thank you so much for your support. I thank you for your being so responsible. And even though the internet is acting a lot of times, you just wait and you are patient. You're not worried. We become even more stronger now, isn't it? In the beginning, we were like, oh, of course. And in the beginning, also, we had those attacks. But now I think they just see, or those who thought that we were meaning something harmful, they just know that we are a collective just looking for what is right. Okay. So thank you. We see ourselves tomorrow, brothers and sisters. Enjoy yourself out there. It's a Friday evening. And you know what? Good news. Germany might be opening so soon. You know what? In the past, I think almost a year, we really couldn't get out. The regulations were so tight. And last week, things are opening up. We could get now into shops. And we're looking even for better times to come. So summer, I think we can be having also, our face-to-face meetings again, where we meet the community, where we're going to interview ourselves and even just know, like the whole world has suffered from the pandemic and Africans also. So I thank you so much. Just one last one. Go out and celebrate and pray, and let's connect again tomorrow. So bye. We see ourselves. Drink a lot of water and breathe. Just breathe, like Mama told us. Mama Bello told us. Just drink water and breathe sometimes, okay? So we see ourselves tomorrow. Good night to you. Bye-bye. This is your Queen Efwa Tata. Bye.
You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tata. The Africa we want. Unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa.
After centuries of misguidance caused by slavery, colonization, lack of awareness of our history, and institutional disinformation, a new Africa is on the move, determined and getting organized. Afrika tuko pamoja. Welcome to the United Kingdoms of Great Africa. The United Kingdoms of Great Africa is the credo of the alliance movement of all African intelligences around a common ideal, the unity and development of a strong, conquering, and completely dedogmatized Africa through the channel of a strong organization called the Africa We Want Global. You are an African, Afro-descendant, researcher, historian, scientist, or simply an NGO. You want to be part of this great historical march towards the total freedom of an uninhibited Africa? Visit our website www.africawewantglobal.org. Register and discover the range of our platforms for change. AfricaWeWantGlobal.org. Join the kingdom, be part of it. An initiative of Dr. Susan Tata.